This morning I received an email from Warner Brothers Discovery, 12 a.m. And I should say, anytime you get an email from an employer that early, or at one of these like weird hours of the night, right? 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., etc. Usually it's because the email is automated and it's from a robot. I had the same thing happen with another job I applied for. But I get an email from Warner Brothers Discovery and they announce that after careful consideration, yada, 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 we are not going forward with your application to work for us. It was some position that had weekends and graveyard shifts, the hours that nobody wants to work, but you're of course willing to work those hours, and then they turn you down before even speaking to you. But this email was really weird to me because I remembered applying for a position with them, but I didn't remember doing it any time recently. Most places, when they send their Dear John letters, where they skip the part of actually talking to you, they look at the resume and then they just swat you away like a gnat. Most of them will do that within the first few days of you applying, the first week or 2 weeks of you applying. So again, I get this email on the morning of today, which is October 21st. I go in my email to look and see, when did I apply to these guys? The email where I applied to them was sent on September 7th. So that means that it took them, what is that, about 6 weeks? 6 or 7 weeks, right, to reply to my application just to say, thanks, but no thanks. And with a lot of this stuff, I kind of, because I'm not going to do a video every time somebody turns me down, but I just wanted to kind of make a point or an example out of this. The fact that it took that long for them to respond to someone that applied, which again wasn't even like them actually responding, but just saying, we saw that you applied for us, we're letting you know, we're not even going to bother speaking to you. The fact that it took a month and a half for them to even reply really says to me that that job clearly wasn't something that they were so serious and urgently trying to get filled, maybe because it doesn't even exist. But I really can't think of that many instances where places wait that damn long to do that. I know that there was a restaurant I applied to, I believe it was last year, and I kid you not, I filled out the form. They have, it's more automated crap, right? Everything is computerized and not actually talking to a person. But I filled out their stuff, and they told me that the earliest they could schedule an interview after I filled out the various online forms would be in a month. I kind of like rolled my eyes, but I agreed to it. A month goes by, I show up, and the manager for the restaurant is not there. Good thing I wasn't holding out hope for that one particular job. And that's usually what ends up happening. I'll apply for something and then I'll just kind of like set it to the side and apply for other stuff. And, if I hear back from them, I do. If I don't, it's whatever. This is just the nature of looking for jobs. But I guess what I find most frustrating is that I've really been thinking about the last 3 places I had an in-person interview with, like not this, again, not the computerized crap where you actually physically go somewhere for an interview. I had a delivery driver that I spoke with, right, the position where the guy told me the first 2 people didn't show up, and that made me think, oh, maybe things will turn out better, and of course it didn't. I had the place where I mentioned this one before, that they wanted me to bring in some crap that I didn't have, and that the lady told me being hired would be contingent on whether the people they were already training screwed up or quit or whatever. And then I had my favorite one where they told me that I didn't stay anywhere for that long because apparently people are working at fast food places for 5 and 10 years, and for a little part-time job where they said they would have me come back in for a second interview, then come in for a test run, and then after that you would see if you actually got hired or not. So about 3 different interviews just to even pass clearance for their part-time crap. But I said it's interesting how I'm at such a point when it comes, just in terms of like cynicism, that if you really asked me and I answered candidly, I would say that I almost feel as though you can't believe, or I couldn't believe, that being called in for an interview or even applying for a job gets you any closer to actually having one. Like, I've walked out of every interview I've done, not walked out and like just stormed out of the place after they started speaking, but left each one feeling less encouraged about the prospect of me working there than when I went in, right? Oh, well, maybe we'll hire you if these other people quit. Oh, this is a bad job, but the people who were supposed to come didn't show up, but we're still not going to go with you anyway, which they didn't say during the interview, but you get the idea. It's just one of those things where it's like, is this really the status of job searching, where a company posts some help wanted sign that has been online, who knows for how many days, how many weeks, how many months? You go to it, fill out all the information, and then if you're lucky, they'll send you an email that will say, hey, can you come in for an interview? And then I guess if you're not as lucky, they'll say nothing back. And if you're even less lucky than that, they'll say, hey, we saw your resume, we saw your application, we're not going to even waste our time talking to you. I don't know, it's really hard to believe that this is the status of looking for a job. Waiting days, and weeks, and apparently with this, over a month, just to hear no. And I was able to remember that one really distinctly because I normally don't go to the company website when I apply for stuff because they say, oh, well, it makes a difference because you're directly speaking. It's like, yeah, but they post their stuff on these job boards and job forums specifically to get more people to see it than if they just post it on their website, because they assume that people on a job site are looking for jobs which they claim to be giving out or, hiring. But yeah, I've never, like, I've had trouble in the past getting work. I've said that before, but I have never felt as discouraged as I have over the past year. And it's so crazy to think that you can apply for hundreds of places every year, and maybe you'll get a few interviews, but for the most part, it's rejection emails without them even speaking to you. Um, a bunch of, waste of time, waste of gas, appearances at buildings where they may or may not actually be there themselves to talk to you, showing how disorganized they are. And very seldom, that 1% chance you'll be offered a job. And it's like, look at the stuff that is turning me down, right? Uh, Jobs at restaurants. You worked at a restaurant. You made food, you cleaned stuff, all the things that they, claim to want in terms of experience, and they're just not interested. And I really, this is why I said in my, don't let being unemployed drive you crazy video, that if you start internalizing this stuff and convincing yourself that, oh man, if I just had this, if I just did this, you would, go crazy. And I truly believe, I honestly believe that with a job market this crappy, where employers are overwhelmingly giving you deafening silence or, again, rejections without even speaking to you, I truly believe there is nothing more I could have done. And it's nuts. Like, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone because we're always told about, these lazy people that don't want to work. I see now hiring signs, and I know that even if I apply, even if I have experience in that particular type of job, and it doesn't make a difference. I always try to tell people, and that's one of the reasons why I got annoyed by the guy on Twitter talking about you need to prove to employers you have something of value. It's like, if you're applying for all different types of jobs, right? Delivery driver, restaurant work at these other chains of customer service like AT&T, for example, just different places like that, and you're getting turned down for stuff that, again, they claim you don't need to have experience to have to work with. Rather, there is something wrong with that. You know, I had another guy, he came on my video about the the commission based jobs, and he said, oh, why don't you work as a farmhand? Don't you think that's beneath you? It's like, I truly believe that you could apply to be a farmhand and you would still get turned down anyway. Because, like, literally, this is just the nature of applying for work now. You just send in an application, a place will say this is entry level, you don't need experience, and then give it a few days, a week, or again, in the case of this, 6 weeks, and they're telling you, sorry, you're not good enough to work for us. Maybe it's because they have too many other people applying. Maybe it's because of whatever. But the point is, you are getting turned down for work that really has no right to be that goddamn selective. And I just don't know what else to do.